What's good, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Sankalp Show. So, in today's podcast episode, we have Aman Sadique as our guest, who had graduated last year from KIIT University and is working in Deloitte right now. So, in this podcast, we have discussed about what are the things that you can do right from a very start in order to crack companies like that of Deloitte or Microsoft or any other good company. So, this session is going to be very productive for all those budding engineers and other students who are planning to crack certain companies like that of Deloitte or any other company. And also, we have explored the entrepreneurial side that Aman Sadiq really have, and we have discussed about whether doing a job is a good thing or pursuing your entrepreneurial idea is a great thing. So this is definitely a podcast that you cannot afford to miss out. So kindly watch it till the very end, so as you can get grasp the entire concept of the podcast. So without wasting much time, let's get started.
Doing
How are
good.
you doing?
I'm also good.
Yeah, so
How's
let's
your
just
weekend going?
yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like, amazing.
Okay.
Dealing with people like you, it's always seems good. Welcome to the Sankalp Show, and it's really a pleasure to have you here on the podcast. And before beginning with us, let's just give a brief introduction of yourself.
Okay. So first of all, thanks a lot for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to a great session, and I hope I would be able to add any values to your podcast and any of the viewers who is watching this at this moment. So let's get started with my introduction. So I'm Aman Sadique. I graduated last year from KIIT University. I did my graduation from computer science and system engineering background, and I'm currently working in Deloitte Consulting as a consulting analyst. And apart from my academic and professional career, I have other bunch of interests such as in traveling, food, blogging, and networking and meeting amazing people.
Yeah. So this podcast is actually going to be very inspiring for all those budding engineers that are planning to crack companies like Deloitte or Microsoft or every other kind of company. So starting from the very beginning, like when a student enters in his or her first year or second year, so what would be the necessary steps that you would like to tell to the audience that they could start up so that the journey to crack these companies would be beneficial to him or her.
Right. So before that question, I would like to tell uh, irrespective of the company that you're applying for, like most of the companies look similar kind of skills.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have like certain company specific skills, but there are like certain skills which you always need to build upon. So
Mm-hmm.
I would like to get started from there. So it's something that you need
Absolutely.
to have your domain knowledge. So even if you're from mechanical, CS, or electrical background, the one thing that remains constant that you need to have that domain knowledge which you acquired in your 4 years. And
Okay.
the second most important and critical skill, in my views, is the communication skill. Because no matter how much domain knowledge or academic knowledge you acquire, if you're not able to deliver that in front of the interviewer or in the company, then you have no value because you need
Exactly.
to express yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I know like everything but I'm not able to deliver that content, then I'm of no use to the company.
Yeah,
So the second
exactly.
most important and critical skill is communication and how you present your ideas and views.
Yeah,
And the third is like common sense. You always need to be right on your common sense. And
yeah.
trust me, it is very rare. Having common
Yeah.
sense is very rare.
Common sense is very rare. Yeah.
Yeah. So that compromises of like your aptly skills and how
Okay,
you
okay.
think, how you strategically approach problems, your problem solving skills.
Okay,
So
okay.
these are the basic three skills which can start building from your like first year. And
Mm-hmm.
then other stuff such as internships, projects, coding languages, then these are side skills which you can acquire as per your interest and as per your company needs.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So, along with all those things, we are also seeing a huge hype about competitive programming among the college students. So, like, have you ever done competitive programming in your career as well?
Yeah, so I tried my hands on competitive programming before my like stressful phase of life before the placements when I was in
Uh-huh.
like fifth semester, sixth semester. So then I thought, okay, it's time that I should also try my hands on competitive coding because I was not very good with coding stuff from like first year or second year, but I gained interest in that domain as well because of my interest towards the academics.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I won't say that competitive skill is the only skill that makes you go like throughout your placement process. It's just one part. And again, competitive coding is more like a common skill. You need to solve active problems. You need to be efficient. It more tests your problem solving skills. So, and like if you see, uh, like suppose any company like Google won't ask you to write a Dijkstra algorithm or a shortest path algorithm for their Google Maps. They already have those algorithms built upon in their system. So what they would ask you to do is work upon software development or some other industry skills.
Mm.
So industry skill is something different from competitive skill, first point.
Okay.
And I would like to tell that if you are interested in competitive coding, rather go and master it. And if you're not that much interested, you should go like be good at competitive coding and look for other skills as well.
Mm-hmm. Means problem solving is much more important than getting stars on competitive programming websites, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
Because industry level knowledge requires you to solve basic general problems rather than just typing code and stuff, right?
right.
Yeah. So, but it really helps out. Like competitive programming is something which really helps you out in order to. I mean, it evolves you to solve more and more amount of problems on a daily basis,
Right.
right?
But so that's what I said, right? So if you are good at competitive programming, you are actually broadening your IQ level. So you're
Hmm.
forced to think in that like 30 minutes of time and
Exactly.
like solve
Time
a like
span
very
is very
complex
important.
problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So in
Okay.
that way, like most of the companies like Google, Facebook, they have like Google, like Facebook Jam Cup and like whatever competition
Mm-hmm.
they have. So they just try to see the candidate's IQ level, so how they are
Okay.
able to solve complex problem in like limited time.
Okay, okay, okay. Now, when we talk about all of this thing, there are two group of students that we face generally. Like the one side is completely based on the development side, right? Like being a web developer or a software development. Then the other side of students say that no, competitive programming is really important and you need to do this anyhow. And if you are not good at this, then you're of kind of like no use or something. But when they go on to companies and other stuff, they see that industry knowledge or software development knowledge is very important, and their skills with competitive programming did not really come into play when they come into companies and work on industry level projects. So what do you say on this?
I will give you a funny example on this. So I have
Okay.
some of my friends who were like proper hardcore coders in my batch, and there were some of my friends who were like even from like non-technical, non-CS background. They were like nowhere related to coding,
Mm-hmm.
and the people from non-technical, non-CS background got into coding companies, and people from coding background was not able to make into coding companies. So you can
Oh.
see the like difference.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not, at the end of the day, it's not about the competitive coding or any coding or any like domain knowledge, but because the employer would expect you to be know basics, just basics, and they would train you as per the industry benchmarking.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
but I'm
yeah.
not saying that competitive coding is not important. So if you have interest towards that section, go and master it, because if you are doing mastery of anything, it is going to pay you off well, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So, well, I mean, before joining the Deloitte, you were an intern over there, right? So, yeah. So, how did you crack that internship? Like, did you apply on? I mean, was it on-campus internship or an off-campus, or did you apply from other sources for an internship,
So,
basically?
mhm. So actually, what happened? The internship was a part of a PPO offer. So it was something like you will. It was kind of a placement offer, but with a mandatory internship, because in
Okay,
that 6 months they want to get us trained on that industry skills.
okay,
So that was
okay.
the reason for, and it was only meant for CS people. So
Oh,
they
yeah, yeah.
had a mandatory training for us for 6 months
Mm-hmm.
in which they taught upon like different industry level technologies. Like I was trained on Oracle. Some of my friends were taught upon Salesforce, so on and so forth.
Okay,
So,
okay.
and it was a part of my like on-campus placement process. So Deloitte
Mm-hmm.
usually comes get around like July, when you directly get into your fourth year at the beginning of your seventh year.
Okay, okay.
So at that time, Deloitte comes to the campus and they hire people.
Okay, okay. So we are also seeing that there's a kind of a startup culture that is developing nowadays in the colleges. So people are coming up with new innovations and new ideas, and they are doing moving more towards entrepreneurship or towards startups and other stuff. So do you think that, I mean, going for a job is better, or going for a startup or running a startup right from the college is going to be a better option?
Yeah. So these kind of questions have like no definite yes or no definite no, because it
It's
depends
kind
upon
of,
your situation. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yes. So I won't say that you should go for a job or you should go for a startup. It totally depends upon your preference. So, but getting involved in the startup culture is a very right thing as per my views, because at the end, being into that culture teaches you a lot many things. And like foremost, the first important thing is problem solving, because
Mm-hmm.
being in a startup, you always need to think upon innovating things. You always need to think upon solving problems, because starting a startup from scrap, or working in a startup makes you go beyond that extra mile. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
actually helps a lot in your professional career as well, even if you're not able to launch your successful venture, but
Mm-hmm.
it will add some value to your profile.
Okay. And now, from looking at your LinkedIn accounts, we see that there are a lot of entrepreneurship programs that you were involved in. Like you went to, I mean, there was a certificate of Harvard University as well. So, I mean, there is an entrepreneur hidden inside you. So, but you are working for Deloitte right now. So, do you think that these two qualities can, I mean, the similar thing is also involved in the book. We call it as The Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know whether you have read it or not,
Yeah,
but
I have read that.
yeah, he had worked in a company for most of his lifetime, but on a side basis, he also worked with the real estate and ran other different business or other things so that he could make that money out of it. So can we say that you are also doing a kind of similar thing, or you may plan how to do similar kind of thing, like doing an absolute amazing job at one end and running a different kind of thing on the other side?
Okay. So yeah, so passive income, being a passive entrepreneur is something you can always look up to, because
Mm-hmm.
you can't be a if you can't be the direct entrepreneur, you can always be a passive entrepreneur, and you can
Yeah.
always generate that extra money being a passive entrepreneur, and like generate, like, even solve problems passively.
Mm-hmm.
So, but currently I am more looking towards my professional career at this point of time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm hoping, and it doesn't mean that I'm not looking for sidekicks. I'm doing that as well, but I'm more focused about my professional career because I just graduated last year. But
Yeah.
definitely, I would be looking towards that entrepreneur side someday in future, after gaining some industry level knowledge, after gaining some industry level expertise and experience. And I would be more than happy to be an entrepreneur someday.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay. So, we like I always say to my audience that using LinkedIn as their tool to network with people is really a good thing. So, do you think that using LinkedIn, or how a student can leverage his or her performance by using LinkedIn so that they can meet new people and ultimately make more opportunities out of their usage of LinkedIn? So, what is the importance of LinkedIn in a student's life, basically, in today's time?
Okay. So LinkedIn is more like your new resume thing. So because even if I am an employer, I would look, and if you're applying off campus, right?
Hmm.
In on-campus, you are just going there and applying with the piece of paper, and you were telling in the interview that you have done this and that. But
Hmm.
suppose you're applying offline, or you want to look for jobs on internet. But being an employer, I have only one thing to look up to. That is your LinkedIn profile.
LinkedIn profile.
Or yeah, so the first thing that I would go on is your LinkedIn profile. I will see like how much engaged you are there on that community, how much work you are doing, and that
Hmm.
gives me a basic idea of your profile, how you are, a basic idea of as your character as well, what kind of stuff you do. So
Okay.
LinkedIn is now a go-to thing for many employers, and but yes, this culture is still to come in India. Like they are doing it, but because of the Indian education system, people are more oriented towards like on-campus placements. But if you see outside of India, like LinkedIn is the only thing people get job through. So everyone is applying to jobs through LinkedIn only,
Through LinkedIn
or
only,
like,
yeah.
yeah, and you get to network with people. You will get to build your personal brand. So
Mm-hmm.
that is something really important, and it's always better than using Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah,
So that's my
absolutely. Like,
suggestion
yeah,
to students, right?
yeah, like
Because if you're
we,
spending,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
continue.
go ahead.
No, you can.
Okay, so even I spend a lot of time using Facebook and Instagram, but because of my extracurricular activities, I was like I got introduced to LinkedIn, the benefits of LinkedIn, and from my second year onwards, I was really active on LinkedIn. Initially, I just used to get connected with people and make no conversations at all. But my recommendation to everyone would be, if you are making a connection, make it meaningful. Have
Hmm.
like small chit chat with them, because you don't know when it can benefit you and in what ways it can benefit you. So it's always good to have that chit chat thing, because if you're doing that on Facebook, it's better to do on LinkedIn in more professional way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, LinkedIn provides you. I mean, what I think is that every connection comes up with a new opportunity if you can look
Yep.
from that point of view, right? Yeah. So,
And it's
I mean,
always I always say this thing, it's always good to explore opportunities. You always need
yeah.
to open that door.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really good. So we also see a lot of certificates that are being, displayed on a lot of profiles on LinkedIn, and there are a lot of dozens of certificates that people are trying to collect from one place or the other. So, do you think that these certificates are really important, or most of the people are doing it just for the sake of getting a certificate? And you cannot really differentiate between whether it's a genuine certificate, like whether a person has actually learned that particular skill, or they are just bluffing around LinkedIn. So what do you think about that?
Right. So in most cases, the most cases that I have seen on LinkedIn, so I
Hmm.
feel people are like more towards like bluffing or faking it out, and they're just like every certificate they do, they put it on their LinkedIn, they put it everywhere, and they just like, because if you see many courses, the answers are readily available on internet. You don't need to do
Exactly.
anything to pass those exams. So, and even the interviewer knows this thing, right? So at the end of the day, they are going to bust you out. They will like catch you if you're bluffing. So it's always
Exactly.
important to focus on your knowledge. It's always important to like be honest, and even if you're learning something, learn it from your heart.
Exactly.
Try to grab the knowledge out of it rather than
Mhm.
just doing it for the sake of certificate.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, acquiring proper and a genuine knowledge is much more important than bluffing around with certificates on the LinkedIn
Right.
just in order to get that spotlight somewhere or the other. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And I would tell you one interesting fact about
yeah,
myself.
yeah,
So
sure.
even when I was going for my interviews now,
Uh-huh.
so at that point of time, I didn't had like many certificates or something like anything. If even if you see my profile, I acquired most of the certificates post my placement.
Okay.
And people actually try to do this thing because to get placements. So it won't help you in getting placement first thing. Yeah. So that you can do as an extra thing, but not as a proper mainstream thing to get your job.
Yeah, yeah,
So certificate
exactly.
is always a side thing.
Side thing, yeah, and it should be kept at side things only. Like you should not, your primary focus should not be on getting more and more certificates, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, one interesting certificate that I saw on your profile is about the delegate of from Harvard University or something like that. So can you please elaborate that?
Yeah,
What was
so
that?
actually
Yeah.
it's a conference that happens from Harvard University,
Mm-hmm.
HPR, and I got the opportunity to recently participate in that conference. Even though I'm placed and I'm working, but I always take conferences as an opportunity to meet amazing people.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it happened like last month, like January, around January
Mm-hmm.
13th. So basically, it's a like 3-day conference in which they invite global leaders, speakers from different backgrounds to talk upon
Okay.
future things. So this year theme was embracing change, moving towards a post-COVID world, and like there were different
Okay.
tracks in it. I was a part of the media and marketing and governance track, and
Oh,
you get to network with a lot of people. You get to network with global leaders. So that's something interesting, and like all the students who is watching this can look up to these kind of opportunities.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like at the end, if you are learning something, it's always good.
Mm, yeah. So one last piece of advice that you would like to give all the audience who is watching this right now, all the students basically who are in their first or second year, one piece of advice that you would like to give.
Yeah. So one piece of advice that would be from my end is that never like go, never be a last minute person. You have 4 years with you. Do something productive. Build your profile from the very start, because
Exactly.
it's better not to stress yourself. You can, maybe
Hmm.
you can do it in the last minute, but why to stress yourself?
Exactly.
It's better to build
Utilize.
something.
Uh,
Yeah, utilize your years, utilize your time.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's never late to follow your passion.
Yeah, all right. So with this, we end our podcast, and thank you so much, Aman, for joining us on this amazing journey. And I really hope that people would have acquired some value from this podcast. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Sankalp.